Welcome back, Guardians. So if you've ever been curious of what the fastest jumps on console are, that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. I'm making a two-part mobility series. I'm going to break it down more in depth than anybody has ever broken down mobility. It's a really long video, so I decided I'd just go ahead and separate it and take this part, make its own video, and then have part number 2, which has all the detail and depth in it, basically. I've also decided to revamp all of my Guardian Bootcamp episodes, and instead of me doing 200 tips in one video, I'm just going to break them down and have their own dedicated video. Some are going to be longer than others, some will be really short, but I felt like it's better to catalog things that way. This way, if somebody asks me a question to something I know I've covered in a past video, I don't have to send a timestamp to them from some video in the past that had, 300 different things in it. I can instantly just answer the question with that link, and bam, it's better for me, it's better for you. But before we get started, I got to give a huge shout out to a sponsor who's going to help sponsor these new Guardian Bootcamp series to allow me to take more time off to make them, and that's a boosting company that I trust and have used in the past called Deving. Deving covers a wide variety of games, including Destiny 2, so if there's a Rustopholis build missing one item, or if you're playing the Division 2 and need the Eagle Bearer exotic auto rifle, you can quickly create an account, pick the platform you play on, and you can also use code Rustopholis to get 15% off all your services. So if you don't have the time, don't have the nerve, or don't have good enough teammates to get something you want, the boost works with account sharing, so they do everything for you without cheats or bug abuse. I've tested this service myself, and I can definitely recommend them to you. Deving and B Squad are a huge part of why I'm able to do what I do. But let's hop into the first part of this video and talk about lightweight. It's changed slightly from the last time that I checked it about a year and a half ago. I figured it was probably a good idea to retest this, so I did. So no matter what value you're at, it can be a 2, it can be a 4, it can be a 6. In this case, it's a 6 versus an 8. 6 with lightweight, 8 without. And when I have 6 with lightweight, it is in fact granting me the +2 when I'm going sideways. But when I tested it about a year and a half ago, it would only grant me a +1 mobility when I was going sideways, and then a +2 when I was going forwards and backwards. I didn't want to spend too much time on this topic, but just know that it's granting you the +2 forwards, backwards, sideways, but it's not giving you a +2 when you're doing your jump height. So you're going to still get the 6 mobility jump height, but it's going to grant the 8 mobility speed of how you're moving. Before we jump into all the jumps, I just want to let you know that I didn't include every jump. I didn't include the high jumps because they're obviously not the faster jumps. I also didn't include blink because when it comes to PVE combat, you can't jump and shoot with blink. And if you're doing the highest, tiers possible like Grandmaster and stuff, the combat element just really isn't there with blink. I see that more as a PvP jump than a PvE jump. And I also didn't include strafe glide except for this short segment just to show you how much faster burst glide is over strafe glide. I'm racing to the small dam type area along this path. Both are taking the same exact path, so you can see how much further ahead focus burst is over strafe. I know there's an argument when you're doing like jump puzzles, strafe glide can be like the better one to use, but when it comes down to it, you strip away all ego and just go to self-truth. The reason people use strafe glide is because they just haven't mastered the jumping in Destiny 2 basically, or Destiny 1. Focus burst is way more tactical, especially if you're like speed killing or playing aggro. If you were to learn everything possible in Destiny 2 PvE combat and became a master of it, but focus burst never existed, and then an update happened where they introduced a new jump called focus burst, you would then unlock a new level of combat that strafe glide never had the possibility or allowed you to know the existence of. I can already hear the comment section now, and I'm not trying to sound like an ass or anything like that, but if you took 2 Grandmaster players and you put one on strafe glide and one on focus burst, the one that's on focus burst is not only going to leave the other one behind in the dust, but it's going to be shitting all over the other ads, because strafe glide is just not going to give you the same tactical advantage in a Grandmaster or any max tier activity like focus burst is going to give you. And you can have the argument about, jump puzzles and doing whisper missions and stuff like that. Well, here's the other argument to that. By the time you even get to the jump puzzle, my focus burst guardian that can also jump on those same jump puzzles just as good because I've mastered jumping in Destiny is going to get there so much quicker that by the time you even get to do your little whoop-de-woos or whatever around corners or onto ledges, I'm going to be already finished with that because I'm a mile ahead of you. Anybody trying to talk you into strafe glide or anything different than what I'm saying is not on the level to even be teaching you or giving you their advice basically. And this might sound harsh to your ears if you've been clutching strafe glide for so long, but that's what Guardian Bootcamp series is about, is making you a better player and learning how to really beast in PvE by being taught by somebody who's put their time in and studied the game on levels to be able to then teach it to others. So take that how you will. Let's get into the next part though. It's going to be 10 mobility versus 1 on a multi-terrain test, and then other forward tests and stuff like that. And you might be shocked at the results when it comes to your higher mobility values and focus burst jumping. I'm actually really glad that I did this test, and don't worry, I'm going to move to Titan and Hunter after this, but this is 10 mobility versus 1 mobility. 10 mobility is on the left, 1 mobility on the right. I'm doing the exact same path and just seeing exactly how far ahead, if any, I would become. I did this test probably 2.5 years ago, right after the speed update happened. If you remember, we were all slow in the beginning, and Guardians, no matter how high your mobility or low it was always the exact same. It didn't matter, and I used to do all these multi-terrain tests and then put them side by side, and it was always a tie. And you can see right here that 10 is actually ahead, and then 1 mobility, which I'm going to talk about in the next video, gets hung up right here because it can't make the jump due to its lower mobility value. Once I did that test about a dozen times, I wanted to make it to where I could translate it to a YouTube video to share it with you basically. So I'm going to be racing 10 versus 1 to this telephone pole right at the end of this kind of straight stretch. It's kind of like my little drag race area to race Guardians in. And you can see that 10 mobility versus 1 on this, doing the exact same jump pattern, 10 mobility or the higher value will always come out more ahead. As you watch me do more and more of these races, you're going to see me doing like teabags before the race actually starts. That's just because I'm trying to line it up and know what take is what, basically. That way when I'm doing the crouches, I know that on the third one I'm about to take off. It's the actual takeoff that is lined up perfectly, though the teabags might be out of sync or whatever. It's just used for my own, like, you know, judgment to kind of know when I'm about to take off so that when I line them up, they're perfect. I hope that it doesn't seem like I'm beating a dead horse on some of these takes and how repetitive they can be. Some people take more convincing than others. They like to see the information, and then some people will see it dead in their face and still deny it. So I really want to emphasize on that. If you think that none of this is, you know, true, if your jump isn't faster than what you thought it was or whatever, for sure take your time out and go do the test yourself. Don't do the assumption, because if you just assume things, you're never going to know the actuality of it, and facts are all I'm trying to show here basically. But here's 7 versus 10. You see the last race, 7 beat the 1 obviously, and then 7 versus 10. The 10's going to win because it's the higher mobility value. I'm not a huge fan of 9 and 10 mobility unless sometimes when I play Crucible, the rare times that I ever do. But if you want to know the fastest way to use your focus burst, here's the way to do it. So on the right side, I'm doing it only halfway through the jump, boosting towards the ground. Left side, I call it the V burst. That's when you're boosting halfway through your jump towards the ground and then immediately off the ground as soon as you land, and kind of like a V boost. That's the way you gain the maximized speed on a Warlock. Sometimes it's not done back to back. You have to kind of just read and time it out and know when the V burst is going to be applicable or not. But sometimes when you're jumping across the ledge, you'll need to wait till you land and then, you know, set the jump up and then V burst off the ground. And it might be every other jump you do it on, but you'll kind of get a feel for it over time. But most of the time it's always the second jump, not the one after the other. Alright, let's move on to the Titan now. We're going to start it off with strafe jump. So 7 mobility strafe on the left, 2 mobility strafe on the right. And you'll see that when it comes to Titan jumps, on console, it doesn't matter what your mobility value is. On strafe jump, it's going to tie out the same every single time. That also applies to the Catapult jump as well, and the high jump, but I'm not even going to show the high jump. It's obviously one of the slower ones. There's really not many, if any, ledges that strafe jump won't automatically reach, so no sense in slowing yourself down for no reason. Now, here is the strafe jump again, but this time I put Dune Marchers on, and I wanted to see if me doing like XX jump and then a delayed X at the end, or just doing the regular jump and then X and, you know, ride it out line drive was going to be faster. I wanted to see if it mattered at all. When it comes to strafe jump, as you just saw, it's the exact tie, so there's not a way to make strafe jump faster by doing, you know, the XX and then doing the cutoff or whatever. They always timed out the same. I did that test a ton of times because I wanted to test it against Catapult to see how many different ways Catapult would be faster by doing different triple X's and, you know, cutoffs and, you know, lunge forwards and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that everything was at optimal speed before I tested them. And you can see, of course, when you do delayed Catapult, that's when you're like, you know, doing the normal jump, and then halfway through it you hit X, halfway through it again you hit X again. That's obviously the slower way to do it, and strafe jump will beat it all day. Now let me put Catapult jump on again, and this time I have Dune Marchers, but this time I'm going to do triple X and then a delayed X at the very end before I hit the ground to kind of boost it one more time to see if it's faster than doing the triple X by just doing tap 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 and lunging it forward and then repeating that process. And in fact, when you do the triple X and then the X at the end to kind of get one more little tiny last bit of burst out, that's actually the faster way to do that jump mechanic. There's a ton of ways you can do catapult jump, and I wanted to make sure that I covered every possible way. And no, I'm not including any stasis and sword like skating type things, just natural jumps basically that are used in combat. Here's 7 mobility catapult using the double X method. That's where you just jump and kind of just boost it forward and let it just kind of hang until it lands, versus 7 mobility strafe on the right, doing the normal jump and then strafe it to the end. And you can see strafe jump comes out on top when you do those 2 tests. As I stated earlier, please feel free to do these tests yourself. The ones you're currently seeing are just a small handful of the 50 or more that I did just side by side in different various ways. So for this final one, it's actually going to be 4 more tests of catapult versus strafe. This one's going to be Dune Marchers using the XXX delayed X at the end, which is the fastest way to do this kind of skate technique on console. You saw earlier where I tested that versus the triple X one to see which one was faster, and this one was a tiny bit faster than the triple X one. Versus 2 mobility strafe, which it doesn't matter what your mobility is on the strafe jump, they all tie out the same, but this is the fastest way to do the catapult burst, and you can see again that strafe still comes out on top. I know there's a lot of different mindsets when it comes to which one is actually faster, whether it's catapult or strafe. That's why I'm encouraging you to do the test yourself to see the same results. I've done this test so many times, and every single time strafe always came out on top. So this is another one with just using the XXX method, which is the second fastest way to do catapult, and again, strafe still comes out on top. I also did a lot of multi-terrain tests, kind of like I did with the Warlock that you saw earlier. I'm going to share these last 3 with you as well, and then I'm going to move on to the Hunter and go over their jumps, because again, same as the Warlock, the mobility value plays a role in that as well. So let me show you this test. So catapult is actually going to get about a 5 feet head start here, just to see if strafe can again catch up with it. I'm hitting all the ricochets off the ramps and stuff to making sure that I'm getting the maximized speed that I can when it comes to console control. Unless you're using stasis, melee, and sword and ramparts and all these different various combinations, if you're actually in combat and just strafing from one location to the next, this is the kind of speed that you're going to see, and you're going to see again that strafe is going to come out on top. I will admit here in a second, when catapult's about to land, it gets hung up right there and kind of bounces a little bit to the right, kind of offsetting its angle forward a little bit. That's why I'm going to show you the test again, where catapult hits all its ricochets and it doesn't have that little stumble or fumble thing that it just did. Every time I go up the ramp and go down the ramp, it's going to have all the the boost going forward. Make sure that you realize that catapult is now on the right. It was on the left on the last test, but when I did this, it was at different times editing, and I didn't realize which one I put on the right and which on the left, but I just wanted to note that. But again, if you want to do this test yourself, or you think that I'm not, doing a fair enough test, I try to do this the best that I can. I will admit that I don't use catapult all the time. So doing the triple X and all that stuff all the freaking time is just not something I'm doing. I'm usually jumping and shooting, so I like strafe because of its linear movement and more hang time to be able to do more actions while in the air and fighting different ads. I can just get a lot more accomplished with strafe jump and the time that it has in the air than I can with catapult. Catapult's fastest time is in like the first 10 to 15 feet after it first boosts, and then it slows down, where strafe speed just keeps getting faster. What I mean by that is when you first do the burst of the catapult jump, that first like second to a half second of it, as soon as you hit the burst of it, is its fastest point, and then it gradually gets a little bit slower right after that point. But on strafe jump, it's a constant speed the whole way through. You can also do it bursting off of like objects you fall off of to keep going in a straight linear movement. It does the sea walk. You can't do a sea walk with a catapult. I'm going to explain a lot more detail about this in the next video, part 2 to this mobility series. But if you can get a way for catapult to go faster in a side-by-side race, post a link on YouTube. I'll take a look at it. I'll update the video and pin a comment with that link as well to show you how you can go faster with catapult over strafe. But for now, let's move on to the Hunter's jump. It's a really shorter segment because there's not too much to understand, but like the Warlock, the mobility does play a huge value in it. Here's 10 mobility triple jump versus 10 mobility strafe jump. Now, strafe jump is always faster in most of the cases. The only time that it won't be faster is what I'm about to talk about in a second. But let's get on to this test now. So 10 mobility triple versus 7 mobility strafe jump. And you can see again, it's still faster than the 10 mobility triple. So another win for strafe jump basically. I'm also going to talk about strafe versus triple in the next video as well, and why I still like triple better. But check this out. Here's 6 mobility strafe jump on the left, 10 mobility triple on the right. If you were to calculate exactly how many points of mobility strafe is faster than triple jump in all of its movement, it would be somewhere between 3.25 to 3.75 mobility points faster than triple jump. But if you're in a situation versus somebody else that has 6 and you're at 10 triple, 10 and triple is actually faster than 6 mobility strafe jump. Or you could also say that 9 mobility is faster than 5 mobility strafe jump. Just as long as you're 4 points higher than somebody else will make your guardian faster than theirs. But again, you don't get that second jump using strafe unless they brought back Bones of Ao, which used to be my favorite combination on the Hunter back in D1. So in a way, your combat is a little bit too limited for my taste. It also won't gap things as far as triple jump will. And you can also get more actions in the air when fighting done, such as throw a grenade one way, hit your hop again, and land with a fusion shot another way, or whatever other gun basically. So you have more air possibilities when it comes to triple jump over strafe jump. I'm going to show more examples of that, of what I mean, on the next video. But just know, if you have 4 more mobility higher than strafe jump, like 6 versus 10, the 10 triple is going to be faster than 6. Strafe overall is the faster jump, but at what cost is really kind of what it comes down to. Again, I'll talk about that more in the next video. I didn't want to push it out too long, just kind of go over some examples and what I believe are the best jumps for PvE combat that can maximize your skill level to the fullest. Please leave a like to help my rating, help the channel thrive even more, Guardians, and also comment down below to help this algorithm. Again, my name is Rustopholis. Join the B Squad if you want to support this channel. You can also enroll with a donation at paypal.me/Rustopholis or visit my store. Anyways, y'all Guardians, take it easy. Thanks for watching. I will see you all in the next video next time.
Space.